Welcome to the Crypto Swamp Creatures, the show you never knew you needed and still don't want anyways. I'm Christopher Alexander, your blockchain and advocacy communications expert.
And I'm Justin Wallen, your guide through the often murky world of politics and polling.
Every week, we dive into the intersection of crypto, policy, and politics without taking sides. We're here to give you the straight, data-driven analysis that influences the decisions of those who want to win or want to be elected.
Think of it as a late 80s newscast, but with a twist. We bring you the serious stuff, but with a dash of sardonic wit and just a hint of irreverence.
So whether you're a crypto enthusiast, a policy wonk, or just someone who appreciates a data-driven approach, this is your place.
We bring you both sides, weigh the impact on crypto, and then we share what we use for show prep every week on our meeting.
So remember, no one is as smart as someone who agrees with you, and now get ready to enter the no swamp zone. Well, welcome back to the Crypto Swamp Creatures. We've got a really zip sweater-filled doozy today. We've had an announcement that the Trump campaign is looking at what would be I've already made a mistake. It is not the Trump campaign. The Trump family is looking at a DeFi project. It is not connected to the campaign. They've been very clear about that. You wouldn't be able to tell that from some of the press coverage. But we'll talk a little bit about what on earth they're doing, because they have picked a regulatory landmine of the greatest possible magnitude. So we'll talk a little about what it is. We'll talk about the implications or the ramifications of launching business ventures while you're running for office and how people may react to that. And then I think after we do our usual weekly bona fides, Justin, we're going to talk about the brands people love based on political ideology. I'm going to try to guess them since I didn't get through the paywall. So it's a technical process. So we're kind of running out of things. I mentioned surgical cups. You said that a Tag Heuer is a workman's watch. As are most products in Formula One. Have Formula One sponsors or sponsor Formula One. So I'm running low. I guess maybe we can go to shoes. If you had shoes on, what would they be?
Today they're Gucci.
Are you actually wearing shoes?
And pants, strangely enough. Yes. I'm fully clothed from the waist down.
So for people who don't know, when you do appearances, even in studio, it's not uncommon to just wear shorts because the lights are hot. I'm always wearing like a pair of shorts. Justin has gone like, all I can think of is how Richard Nixon used to golf in a suit. Just to actually wear everything.
I'm pretty much constantly in a suit. But yes, the alternative is the scene in Casino, right? Which is more common than you'd imagine and distinctly disturbing when you think about it. It is. I am wearing pants, and that's usually a good bet, but not always.
Yeah, well, more power to you on that one. So if I were wearing shoes right now, I think with this, I'd have the Jimmy Choos with the beetle on them.
Nicely done.
Yeah,
well played. We're all rocking the red bottoms.
Yeah, sounds.
No. I'm thinking Louboutin, Jimmy Choos. Yeah. You know what's funny?
I talked right past that. I was trying to help.
I also have a pair of Jimmy Choos. And can you imagine, if you're going to think of the different kinds of shoes they would be? Would they be, brogues? Would they be dress shoes for a formal event? Would they be boots, sandals? What do you think a man's pair? You've already got a pair, and I assume they're dress shoes. What do you think my man's pair of shoes? I want to be clear about that. I'm not wearing heels in Jimmy Choos. These are men's shoes. Not that I judge, that's fine. But mine happen to be men's shoes. Which do you think?
I got to stop for a second. There's 3 points here. Number one, if they were high heels, I think you could get a job at the Department of Energy, the nuclear advisor, because I think that's what that guy was that kept shoplifting. And had
don't judge.
Fascinating. Yeah. I mean, I judge the shoplifting when you're a nuclear safety official, but
It's probably not a good idea. You want to avoid that.
The costume. Now, one, two. If you say opera pumps, I'm going to $1,000 to a charity, because I actually have a pair of opera pumps, which were for men. And they are, of course, not particularly feminine looking, just to clarify.
And so the folks understand, I think the easiest thing that you can relate to that is those would be, Venetian sandals, right?
Yeah, they can relate to that. With the work, the guys that are down the construction site with their tag, they totally relate to the Venetians.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So my Jimmy Choos,
used until you rolled out the Venetian sandals. Now I get it.
Yeah, you go. They always wear Venetian sandals to a Steelers game. But my Jimmy Choos, the ones that have the beetle pattern on them, I think you've seen them. They're like brown woven.
Yeah, they're cool.
So if I'm going to have to guess, I'm not going to go with tennis shoes because I believe you have the Golden Goose and the Saint Laurent. So sandals?
Nice guess. Very good guess. It is the exact opposite of what anyone would imagine, including myself. They are boots, and they are their version of combat boots, which you've actually worn in real life. Not the Jimmy Choos, but the ones that actually are for combat.
I mean,
and they're terrific. I love them. I got them in I got them in Madrid. No, Milan. I got them in Milan.
If I was still going to war zones, I would totally get those.
Honestly, if you're gonna kid out, have that, right?
Yeah. I got the Prada Commando sweater already, so like I could be the most offensive contractor ever, but don't do that anymore. Anyways, all right. So we worked out our qualifications. Again, proof that we're swamp adjacent. And speaking of brands, why don't we get into the is it Democrat or Republican wearing, driving, buying this challenge?
Yeah. So this, and people can play this at home because it is on at their today's version of the Wall Street Journal. Maybe it was yesterday. But let me share it.
Another proletarian type of tablet.
Yeah, of course. So there's a variety of, and this is true, right? If you've done segmentation, you've done any kind of consumer marketing outside of public policy, which obviously uses political ideology as an indicator, it's an indicator in just about everything else, right? So if you're trying to predict behavior, including consumption, political party is one of those things, just like age and gender and where you live and are you married and all these different things. So
didn't we do some polling on that for a brand? Didn't we actually look at ideology as part of it? Not going to name that brand.
Well, we have a variety of different topics here for which to choose. I will quiz you on these. We have women's clothing. We're not going to do that. Not going to do breakfast because it's boring as can be. We have, let's start. Men's clothing, cars, or alcoholic drinks. What do you want to start with?
Surprising me, although I'd like to take a stab at women's clothing, metaphorically speaking. But surprise me.
All right, let's start with booze. So if you were to choose, where would you put a cosmopolitan? Would it be heavily Democratic, moderately, mildly, even, just about split in the middle, mildly Republican, moderately Republican, or heavily Republican?
All right, I'm going to explain my thought process briefly. I cannot hear that without thinking of the show Sex and the City.
Clearly.
So I'm going to go almost all the way over Democrat.
You're going to do heavily? Because your choices are moderate and heavy. You can't go in between.
You can tell where I've been working for 20 years. I wanted him to. All right, heavily Democratic.
All right, heavily Democrat it is. Let's go straight to Jack and Coke.
By the way, now I'm going to think about when I was in a combat arms unit in the Army. I'm going to go moderately Republican.
Moderately, all right.
Only because I think universities tend to skew slightly to the left, so that's going to pull college students over and throw them in with the guys that like that.
It really is a collegey drink, isn't it, Jack? All right, gin and tonic.
I think it is. It could be wrong.
Gin and tonic. If you are conquering or holding territory overseas and wearing formal wear in the desert, you're drinking gin and tonic. Where are you going to lie?
I think I'm only going to do that if I'm British and it's 19.
Exactly.
Well, so I'm going to go moderately. Now I'm going to go mildly Democrat. The reason that it seems like a drink old people would have, and old people skew conservative.
Yeah, I like gin and tonic. Damn you to hell.
Well, I mean,
I'm fairly young though, so that's fine. All right, so gin and tonic, keeping the malaria away at mildly Democratic.
By the way, in Iraq, sorry, in Iraq, you would get, I think it was mefloquine was the one, and people would have these, its side effect was really weird, vivid dreams. And so a lot of people just wouldn't take it, but some people loved it. So that was our anti-malaria medication.
Guarantee you it's going to be in the Fire 2 festival that is currently being marketed. Korbel champagne. So very specific that you noted that this is Korbel. Korbel champagne. Where do you have that?
The only champagne I really know is American champagne. That's Coca-Cola. I'm gonna go to moderately. Man, this is tough. I'm gonna go to mildly Republican.
Mildly Republican coming in hot.
Yeah.
And champagne adjacent, the Coors Banquet.
Well, I mean, I love a Miller. It's a beer, so I feel a little but Coors Banquet. I'm going to go moderately Republican.
All right, here we go.
I mean, it is a beer named after a guy named Adolf, after all.
Let's see how you fared. You did well. You got 2 out of the 5, which, when you think about it, is rather difficult. I mean, there's 6 different options here. It's pretty tough. So the Cosmo.
How amazingly wrong. How amazingly wrong was I? Or was I in the ballpark?
No. I mean, look, as far as I'm concerned, if you're going between heavily and moderately, you're in the right time zone, right? It's just if you flip to the other party, then you're off base. You only did that in one case. Theoretically, you could say in another one, but Cosmopolitan is moderately Democratic. Jack and Coke, moderately Republican, nailed that. Gin and tonic, it's even. It is an
bipartisan drink.
That's exactly right. So Korbel, moderately Democratic, and Coors Banquet, moderately Republican, nailed it.
I really struggled on the champagne because on the one hand, I thought of evil bankers toasting at a massive ball, all type thing, and then on the other hand, I thought that snooty New Yorkers, and it all came together. And
you did well. You got 2 out of the 5. I did these actually this morning, and there were several that I got 0 correct on. So it's actually, I could be generous to myself and say that it's more difficult than it looks, which was the path I was going down. It actually may be simpler than it looks. I'm just a knucklehead, and I'm fair with that assessment as well. But it's a fun little thing to go through. Wall Street
go with the latter, not the former. It's incredibly difficult. I mean, that works in both our interests.
Thank you. All right, the news.
Yeah, well, wait, I want to ask you then. Do the Trump and Harris campaigns need to avoid gin and tonics at all costs? Is it a bipartisan drink? Do any of those props ever really matter? I wouldn't put light if I were. Well, actually, maybe you want to upset me. I don't know. There's some lightning rod products, anyways.
Well, you know what's interesting is candidates avoid booze as a general rule, except for beer. So a candidate will be seen having a beer to be one of every man, right? That was one of, if I remember right, Barack Obama used that.
Yep.
But booze, that's not going to happen. You're not going to see anybody drinking a gin and tonic or a Jack and Coke or anything that actually has liquor in it. But a beer, well, that shows that me, as a candidate for president with, a remarkably significant relative bank account, is one of you. Apparently that communicates that. I actually think it does pretty well.
Yeah, they probably got that every man's tag while they're at it, and some opera pumps, Venetian sandals.
Yeah, gonna rock exactly.
I did one last thing on that front. I did read Obama tended to get custom, I guess, Brooks Brothers suits, and then I guess Trump was into a Canali or something.
I think it's Brioni.
But is it Brioni? And yeah, well, we're going to get a cease and desist from somebody. I haven't seen what, for women's suits. I don't even know that Canali or Brioni make women's stuff. Brooks Brothers, I guess, does, but sort of curious.
Biden is right, of course.
Yeah.
Brooks Brothers purple label guy.
Is he a Brooks Brothers guy as well? Yeah. So, Brooks Brothers has a long,
Polo. He's a Polo purple label.
Yeah, I guess purple. Yeah. Anyways, so interesting to see.
Ralph Lauren, not Polo. Ralph Lauren. Yeah. Whatever. Anyway, we were talking about Kamala Harris's stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't either. And actually, be perfectly frank, I think that betrays a lack of attention for both of us. I think we should look at it. Yeah, this is somebody who is, based in LA, right? Yes, she lives in Washington, D.C., but personally based in LA. She's based in a reasonably fashionable part of the world. She's certainly based in a high money part of the world. And I suspect she's going to be, well clothed. I suspect she's going to have good people draping her, and we should actually see some good stuff out of her.
Yeah, you don't see ill-fitting stuff like when they attack.
She's well presented.
Yeah, her appearance or things. It's not about the clothes, and she's not rolling around in head to toe Louis Vuitton.
To me, I think she's consistently well presented. She's well dressed. She's not that what I think matters about what a woman wears or anyone wears, but I think she's nailing it.
So, anyways, that ought to knock off another half of our audience.
Does someone disagree and feel that she's poorly dressed?
Well, let's see. So they get mad at us for saying not everything about her is bad.
Right. Yeah, you can't win this stuff.
Yeah, mad at us. Yeah, I mean, so just won't. But
just so everyone knows, we do not care.
Yes, and we aren't voting in this election. So, we don't exactly have a dog in the fight.
Right.
Now, something on the crypto side that bleeds over into campaigns, and I think we'll start in the land of zip sweaters and then talk about the impact, is a pretty monumentous announcement from the Trump family. I already kind of screwed up earlier and said the Trump campaign out of habit.
I mean, in fairness, they are very, very close, right? I mean, if you think of all the families that have been involved politically, the Trump family has been extraordinarily deeply entrenched in not only the political environment of their father, their figurehead, but also the governmental component. So I think it's fair, although not accurate, right? Not to clarify that. I think it is fair to regularly get confused by it, but it is important to keep them distinct.
Yeah. Again, cease and desist wise where I'm going. So I'm going to read a little bit because this gets complicated real fast. But what they have set up is World Liberty Financial. That has no relationship to, as Justin texted me quickly this morning, a project that I work with called Liberty Blockchain. They never did, well, maybe the twain shall meet, but in no way are they currently affiliated. But what they're basically doing with World Liberty Financial is creating a lending platform, and it's what's called a DeFi lending platform. What that means is decentralized finance. And it's actually a really, really interesting concept because, I think you've worked with brokers, mortgage lending, and that on projects, Justin. Basically, blockchain can allow you to work without any of it. It's called a smart contract. I think we've talked about that before. But essentially, it's like an if this, then that. It's an algorithm. And if you meet the qualifications, then a transaction is settled on the blockchain. That is, in fact, why you have a blockchain. That's what goes in those blocks. And when you solve a block, that's how you get a coin, whether it's Bitcoin or what have you. Technically, it's a token. But so again, this is so wild. This goes in so many different directions. We can have like 15 different experts on to talk about different aspects of this. But the idea is this: there's no middleman involved. So you can put your money into a liquidity pool that I can borrow from, and then I meet the conditions for the loan, and off it goes to me. That's simple. And so you might wonder, there's like a million regulatory and financial risk questions here, right? So the first thing starts with collateral, like how does it work? All right, these loans, you have to be what's called over-collateralized. And I am super simplifying this because I could barely understand it. But if you want to borrow $1,000, you have to put $1,500 up to get the loan. Right now, you can put that up in any kind of different cryptocurrency. They might even do tokenized assets. So maybe you can put a piece of your mortgage up for it. Like, we'll see what happens. Now, you're probably wondering, I think I saw you doing the math, like why on earth would I take a loan at?
Well, my question is the loan in the form of crypto, or is it in the form of U.S. dollars, for example, because then I understand it. Then if you're converting temporarily, your crypto asset to a US dollar asset, and that has value because you can use it for goods and services in a more easy fashion. I get it. I am struggling to understand the over leverage or the over capitalized equation.
So you hit a use case I hadn't thought of, which is if you're struggling to convert your crypto to fiat. So I'll tell you the main use for this, and then it'll just be like, oh, of course. This is exceptionally useful for people who are like day traders, people who are trading on arbitrage and the like, right? So I stake my Bitcoin and I get a loan, and the loan can be in anything, right? It can be, well, I don't think it can be US dollars, but it can be a dollar peg stable coin, as they're called, so the equivalent of dollars. But it could be some currency that's supposed to go through the roof, right? Or as they like to say, to the moon, to the horror of the compliance department where I work. And so you'll never hear me actually say that in reference to anything I'm working on. But you're excited about a currency and you think it's going to go, up and up and up and up. So you say, you know what, I'll put $150,000 worth of Bitcoin down on the platform and I'll borrow, and I'll take it out in this currency. Or, right? There's all sorts of variables, and it's just a matter of how ingenious you are with trying to do arbitrage, day trading, or other things. So that is kind of the core of how it works. And so it's not, and so actually we should stop there. That's sort of the core of what decentralized financial lending is. All right. So it's over collateralized because if you run off with the money, then, they liquidate and get their money back at a profit. And of course, like anything with shorts and margin calls and all that kind of stuff, if you throw a bunch of Bitcoin in and the price of Bitcoin falls, by 20%, you'll hit a certain point and your position gets liquidated and you lose it. So that you can't just throw up a coin that's worth, 1,000% more day one, and then it drops to day two and you've, defrauded it. So the big network, DeFi network for this, or one of the biggest, is called Aave. And there's one other wrinkle here, and this is where we'll get into the Liberty announcement from the Trump folks. They also have a coin because, right, you're creating blocks on the blockchain. The blocks are recording the transactions. That contains this loan information and resolves the contracts and handles everything. So there is no need for title and escrow. There is no need for a lender. There's not a need for any of that. So the fees can be much lower, right? Well, they also get a token. So if you own a node, if you help run the blockchain and that's settling these transactions, you get their currency, which is a listed coin on an exchange. So what the owner of the lending platform is able to do is they're able to offer these loans at 150% collateral, so they don't ever lose money unless they have security issues or something, right? Or just they lack business, but they don't lose money on loans, one. And then two, because these transactions are being settled on their network, their coin has more value. So the coin can be held in a reserve and be an additional insurance, or they can liquidate it for operations or just whatever they want to do with it. So you make money in every possible direction on this. And at the same time, you offer loans. So the campaign, I did it again. The Trump family announced this new platform, and apparently a white paper. You and I have talked about the cult-like obsession with white papers in the past. The white paper was leaked, and I'm not even going to bother to repeat the details because even in the articles that are bashing it, like 4 to 5 paragraphs deep, you'll see them say, well, actually, the campaign said, the company said that is not a final document. And
it said it was a draft, right?
Draft, yeah. So a draft got leaked. It's being reported as the gospel truth. It's, the famous Winston Churchill quote, a lie gets halfway around the world before the truth gets its pants on. So we don't know entirely what they want to do. But everything I've said so far about how decentralized lending platforms would work, that would apply here. But now there's some even more complicated wrinkles. One, the campaign. if I say campaign, I just mean
let's just assume that anytime you say campaign during this period, this morning,
you mean that.
You do not mean that. You mean the family,
Yes,
the biz.
Yes. So they posted World Liberty Financial. They're on Twitter. They're on Telegram. Huge. Telegram's huge for crypto. For people that don't know, I'm taking a look at it now. I just kind of read what they said because it's important. Rumors are flying, but here's the real story. We know the magnitude of what we're building and its potential impact on both crypto and our country, especially with the upcoming elections. And then there's a whole thread where they explain what it is that they're doing. And a big component of this is something you and I've talked about, actually, Justin, which is future-proofing against de-dollarization. What they want to do is they want to make sure that a US dollar-pegged stablecoin is a critical part of the lending platform. And, their vision is perhaps to compete against a BRICS CBDC. And of course, that would be a official government digital coin, or in this case for, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. So they view this as a national security play, the same way people argue, like Senator Cynthia Lummis argues that you could use Bitcoin as a reserve and a national security play. So that's supposed to be part of it. Then they added, well, we're going to have what are called KYC, know your customer requirements. So you can't just anonymously get involved. That's also going to be really difficult for something that's decentralized. There's going to be, again, it just in every direction, from FinCEN to campaign finance to everything in between, they are astride like all of them. So it's going to be wild.
So I think when we were first talking about this, one of the things that we were wondering is, when you're launching a business like this as a candidate, especially a candidate for the president of the United States, does it present issues? And to me, those issues are kind of aligned into two big buckets, right? One's the moral bucket, and one is the legal bucket, which I'm going to take and put over here because other people care about that. I don't care about it. So the second bucket that matters to me is, does it have an effect on your campaign? Because that's really what matters, right? So the moral bucket, I'm also going to take that and put it somewhere else. There is but before I do that, there is a history of presidents once seated stepping aside from their core investments. So if you are the CEO of a business, if you own a business, you're going to say, while I'm president, I'm going to step aside from this and put it in someone else's hands so that I do not have a perceived conflict of interest, but really more important, I am completely focused being the public servant of the nation, because that's my job. So that's typically what's done. It's a historical precedent. It is not a legal construct necessarily. And because it's a historical precedent, kind of gets lumped into this moral business. And now
Trump did that previously, right? He put everything in a trust and gave it to the family, or I don't actually remember. Do you happen to remember the technical side of that?
Well, I don't, and so I don't want to speak to it. But even if it was in a trust, so President Trump did, as President Trump did a number of things that kind of deviated from previous behavior. One is he didn't release his tax returns, right? Which he's not required to do. And then, whether or not he still was in operating control of Trump properties and businesses, he did nevertheless, as president, have a number of the items with his name on it be associated with government expenditure, right? Notably the Trump Hotel, which has since been sold to Waldorf Astoria, gone through near bankruptcy, and so on and so forth. But he's done a number of things that weren't in alignment with historical precedent, and I think that goes to point number two. Does it hurt or help somebody? I think in this case, as with a lot of things that we're talking about for President Trump, for almost anyone else, it would hurt them, right? It's like your friend in college who could, walks up to your girlfriend, says, pull my finger. He does what you expect. It's horrifying. And she giggles. And if you and I did it, we'd be smacked in the face. It's just, I can't pull it off. Not that I would ever think of it, but so there are people in the world who get away with stuff just by nature of who they are. You expect it from them. It doesn't matter whether you think it's good, bad, or all different. You kind of expect it from them, and that's just the way it is. In this case, I think it's the same thing. Beginning a business and being the figurehead of a business during presidency for Trump is not going to hurt him in any way, shape, or form. If my personal bet is it only helps him. I mean, his brand is of strength. His brand is of success in business. And the more that he engages that, the more it'll burnish his brand amongst those that really, really do like him, and a certain group of folks who are kind of on the fence. So in this case, I think this is, there's no downside for him. And keep in mind, that he has been successful in those items that people have said he is going to fail at recently. He got in a spat with Twitter, and before Elon Musk took it over, and then he started Truth Social. There was a lot of mockery about Truth Social. I mean, the guy's sitting on over $2 billion in value now from Truth Social. So, he makes some good calls.
All this goes back to when you said, all right, now critique Trump messaging. And I said, I don't know how to do that.
Right. And that's what's so fun about it, because you have to put it through this lens of, well, all right, if it was me saying it, it isn't going to work. But
he's like a cartoon character, and there's the gravity doesn't apply. He just runs off the cliff, and he's just
right. That's right. Floating. Certain laws of just about anything don't really apply.
Yeah, it's always fascinating. So in terms of what the crypto...
And by the way, in fairness, let's keep this in perspective as well, because it's easy to throw stones at something like that and say, even if it was under trust and so forth, there's conflicts of interest. Let's be very clear. There is not a single elected politician who does not have some form of conflict of interest, because every single one of them owns something in what we call some version of a mutual fund, right? It is the predominant form of investing, is the predominant form of retirement. And yeah, I get it. Our electeds at the federal level have a very, very good retirement scheme, but they are, maybe there's one that isn't, but the vast, vast majority, and I would be shocked that even one does not have some form of retirement or current investment in a mutual fund. And mutual funds are by nature diversified, and it is impossible not to have something that is not going to present some sort of perceived conflict of interest. And it's a challenge for them to try and remain purely objective with all things, given that the nature of our diversified income portfolios, the investment portfolios these days. So it's easy to point fingers at that. I get it, but show me someone who is really pure in that regard.
And as to what does the crypto community think, there's a bit of alarm. There's some pretty significant supporters of Trump in the crypto community who are like, don't do this. Of course, in a lot of cases, they're reacting to this somewhat breathless, shrill reporting about it, when we don't even really know what's happening yet. One of the funnier things, maybe we can get them to listen to the show. They're like, someone find the Twitter account of this person and have them talk to the Trump campaign, because, that's how it works. But they mean well, as the Southerners would say, bless their hearts. But we don't know what it is. But one of the issues is when you're talking about over collateralized loans here, we're not helping people buy houses, right? Like that would be probably the worst way you could possibly operate this. And so it's I think a fair charge. Although again, we don't know how they're going to do it. Maybe they've worked something out, or maybe they'll have kind of a social good deal where they put aside a certain amount of higher risk loans. I mean, we don't know, but this is not a platform for first time home buyers.
Right. Wasn't most of the breathlessness about the reported ownership structure, right, and the proportions in that?
If we go to the meta level, it's because Trump did it. Right. So then already we've got probably everything from Russians controlling his brain from space to Trump stakes being terrible, which I don't know if they were or not. I don't know if they're still around. However, the what you're referring to in the first piece that we looked at was that the Trump family and the employees and associates were going to keep 70% of the token.
As reported by the outlet.
As reported by...
That was the headline. That's what they were saying. This is unusual and so forth. And if you dig down a little bit further, as you were saying, this was part of a draft structure and has not been finalized.
And that's a lot. I think Ethereum gave up 16% to its founders. Satoshi Nakamoto, the mystery person or group, for Bitcoin, 5%. It's a lot. And that's problematic. It gives them a lot of control if they were to do that. But what that 70% was comprised of, I mean, in any way, having that many affiliated people is bad, but it's a draft. So we have no idea. So hopefully they don't pursue something like that. They seem to signal that they absolutely were not going to do something like that. And we'll see. But you could have an issue there, one, and then the other potential issue here is, all right, you're going to do some of these over collateralized loans. That's great. You're going to have a ton of know your customer requirements. So I'm not sure how centralized or decentralized you are. And then I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen with these tokens that sit off to the side. And they've got to be very, very clear and very, very upfront about that. And to highlight that danger, I believe Laura Trump and one other member of the Trump family's Twitter accounts were hacked. A fake token was created, and people were told, buy this and support the president and his family, like do it right away. And this is a very common scam that's going on. There was one with McDonald's. I think a McDonald's executive retweeted a token that was supposedly a celebrity partnership. I can't remember the details of it now, but people started buying the token. It was fake. I accidentally bought something in one of these scams. I won't sound quite as stupid as the other people, but BlackRock is tokenizing different products on a blockchain, or they're planning to. And I think they're doing it on Ethereum. I think it might just be a fully private blockchain. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but I read about it. Someone's like, oh man, this is starting up. And I found a BlackRock token on a decentralized exchange. I thought maybe it wasn't available in the US regularly. So I was like, I bought $30 worth because it was super small. And then I got my $30 worth of this. And then I found that there were like 182 other quote unquote BlackRock tokens that were listed. And it's a fake. So I'm holding on to it. I'm hoping maybe somebody gets really excited one day. They put like $50 in, I'll cash out. I'll probably make, $32. $2 on my $30.
Show me somebody who hasn't been defrauded in life and so you a liar.
Yeah, well,
it just happened to everybody. One time, and today in today's digital world is increasingly difficult to separate the hucksters from others. People worm their way into email, and their emails actually sound genuine. They are able to emulate the tone and tenor of your clients and so forth. You always have to be careful. A bank says, "Hey, listen, verbally call your whoever if they say the wire instructions have changed." You must. You absolutely have to, or you will get taken for a ride. But one of the ones that was the best in the world of hokey fraud schemes was back in the world when I was making boats. There was someone who said, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to send you a deposit. It just didn't feel right. It had all the feelings of the sort of thing like this is BS. And sure enough, a check shows up and it was printed, and it was just obviously printed on a home printer. This is great. Good job. Nice. Is someone somewhere might fall for that. I just can't imagine who it would be. I mean, it's brilliant.
I had a similar experience face to face. I had aspiring terrorist or kidnapper. I'm not really sure what you want to call him in Mali.
Hey, Dad.
He was, anyways, again, bless his heart. So I was at the airport in Bamako grabbing my stuff because I was working on that thing I did there for the government. And he's like, I can be your driver. And I was like, oh, no, I'm good. But he was very insistent. And I was impressed by it. And, he learned English because keep in mind, if they speak, they typically speak several tribal languages, but they speak French in Mali. And then he said he was going to take me on like a tourism adventure, basically.
Ooh,
Uh, and he's like, we'll go up by Timbuktu. Well, aside from the, was it aphorism about Timbuktu? Timbuktu is actually an incredibly dangerous place. And I was talking to some people about doing some operations north of Timbuktu that involve some very bad people. So you don't go there. I think there's still a State Department warning in place. So he's like, yeah, I want to take you up to Timbuktu. And I'm like, this is like the most cordial.
You think it might?
Yeah, like, are you trying to kidnap me? Are you going to sell me? Or are you just like the dumbest human being in?
You know, he hadn't refined his pitch. He needed to work on it.
Yeah, I appreciated it. I mean, you know, maybe he meant well. Well, he meant well for somebody. I always wondered about that one. But it's kind of like that one time we had, I won't name the country, but we had someone who was spying on us from, it was supposed to be a friendly country. And I went to report him and they're like, oh, you're like the third one this week, the security. Like, just don't.
We know.
Yeah, they're like, it'd be really embarrassing. And he's really bad at it.
Really bad. Yeah.
So anyways, well, I think that wraps it up for the week as, well, I would say as always, but now we are posting some analysis for some of the links that we use in show prep. And then if not, we dump all the show prep links in with a little synopsis. So you can always see what we're looking at and, you know, tell us what we're wrong and why your candidate's better and why we're fascists, communists, or I don't know, whatever you want. You know, but frankly, if you pay any attention to us right now, we're pretty excited. So,
yeah,
feel free to use.
Call us little Bo Peep. It's not going to make much of a difference, but glad you're listening if you are. And till next week.
Yeah, and I'm excited to not be able to name all of the listeners by name. So I think that's.
It's certainly because it's a long list.
Yeah, what does the mob people say? He was known to me. He was not known to me. The listeners were all known to me.
Yeah. Well, it's been a good day, and next week we'll spend a little bit of time talking about the presidential race. Not too much time, but just a little bit.
We will. Oh, and you know, we do have a little kind of sneak preview. We do have a former state attorney general who missed being governor, I think by 1%. As much as 50% of us here voted for him. So we'll, you know, once he's fully locked in, we'll talk about some more. But guy who knows a lot about politics, a lot about crypto, and I actually flew around once on a private jet with. So hard to beat.
Interesting person. Really looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun discussion.
And that's all for this week on the Crypto Swamp Creatures.
We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the intersection of crypto, politics, and policy.
Remember, the data doesn't lie, and neither do we. Well, not about anything important anyways.
Until next time, stay informed, stay skeptical, stay out of the swamp.